Well, I mean, it's totally different to wake up in the morning and have somebody shooting at you. You know, I'm more concerned about those who were shot, staff members, Steve Scalise. They need our prayers. It's a tragic situation. So, as far as myself, I'm fine. I'm sure it'll settle in later. But my whole focus during all this was just to stay calm, see what I could do to help.
Just describe it. I know you've described this a million times. What were you doing when you started hearing it?
Well, it was a normal practice. I had been at the batting cages, which was out by the left field fence. There were some others were out there. It's when I left, Senator Rand Paul went out there to hit in the cage. So I went out on the field to do live pitching. We had members and staff out in the field in their positions. I think Senator Flake was up in the box before me. So I was standing there with a batting helmet and my bat in hand, ready to step up to the plate. That's when I heard a shot. It was about 7:15, I guess. I heard a gunfire to my left, which is over by the third base fence. I looked, I didn't see anything. So my reaction was, let me look over to Scalise's security detail that's always there. They park their SUV close to the first base line fence. See what their reaction is. I turned to look at them. They were exiting the vehicle. You could tell there was concern on their face, but there was only one shot. There was a long pause. Then there was another shot. One of our members hollered, he has a gun. Everybody started running. He started opening fire onto the field then from behind the fence. One member said he stuck the barrel of the gun through the fence, the rifle, and just opened fire on us. Apparently that was when Steve Scalise was hit during the opening volleys. He was almost point blank on Trent Frank from Mississippi, our third baseman, but it missed him, and I think that may be the round that hit Scalise in the hip. I didn't see Scalise go down. I was running from home plate to get out of the field. Dirt was flying up and around when the shots were hitting the ground. I heard a ting, something go by my head. I think it was probably a round hitting off the fence. Some members were diving into the dugout. Others were getting behind the dugout, sandwiched between a fence and a dugout. I went outside the field, and there was a little wooden structure field house, little shack there. I got behind it, which put me directly about 15, 20 feet ahead of me was the security vehicle, the SUV that the police were in. And so I was looking at the side of it. They were behind the vehicle. As we ran across the field, the shooter then followed us behind the fence and came around to the first base side. He still stayed behind the fence, but got to where he could actually shoot at the members of Congress. There were civilians out there. People were walking. This is a park. People were walking their dogs. People were laying on the ground screaming, but he was targeting members of Congress. As I was beside the building, hunkered down, some other members, there was a pause in the shooting. They took off and ran behind a concrete bathroom building about 30 yards behind us. Me and one other stayed there because Matt Micah was laying on the ground between us and the SUV, had been shot in the chest, and he was in pretty bad condition, so we stayed there hoping that we could do something to help Matt. But every time we tried to go out there, he would open fire again. So then the first female police officer, she was engaged in it. She was making calls on the radio. She was behind the SUV, and then she got shot in the ankle. I saw her get shot. She went down. She was immobile. She couldn't move anymore. That's when I realized we only got one gun on this guy. So the other officer, he checked on his partner, and then he went out into the parking lot drawing fire away from us. It was around that time, I mean, he was a true hero in all this. He stayed in the fight. I saw, it appeared that he got hit in the leg. Apparently it was shrapnel from hitting a vehicle or something, but he actually got injured in the leg. Really concerned me then, because if we lost him, then we'd have no defense at that point. He stayed in the fight. Alexandria police arrived. This is probably, I would say maybe 5 minutes after the shooting started. They arrived within 3 minutes of the call, but it was taking time I'm sure, to get the calls through. I had a staff member who was in the car in the parking lot who was trapped in his car. He was trying to call 911 and wouldn't get an answer, so I'm sure there was a lot of calls going. When the first officer went down, she was shot in the ankle. She couldn't move. She was next to Matt Micah. Apparently, I assume that the shooter ran out of ammunition for his rifle. As the Alexander police came up, they flushed him out to the other side where I had a clear view directly of him, and he was brandishing a handgun at that point, still just casually walking around, and he was firing the handgun in our direction. Capitol police officer told him to drop the weapon twice. He fired a shot, and that's when they shot him and took him down. At that point, as soon as he went down, I was able to run over. I knelt down with Micah. I prayed with him for a minute. He was still conscious. It's in pretty bad condition, but he was a trooper. He was hanging in there. The officer, she was really wounded, but he was critical. So I asked if she had a med kit in the car, so I was able to find their med kit. By the time I got it out, medics were already on scene helping Micah. So I took the med kit out on the field where Scalise was still laying behind second base. Brad Winstrup, who's a doctor, who's on our team. He was already rendering aid, so I took him the med kit and then helped the male officer off the field, because as soon as he took down the perpetrator, he went out to check on Scalise. And so
how was Scalise when you saw him, when you were down there with him on the ground?
I mean, he was still conscious, but you could tell he was in a lot of pain. He had lost a lot of blood, but he's a trooper. So I'm believing and trusting everybody's going to be all right, but it's a difficult situation.